Hi guys, Whitney here. We are nearing the end of November, and if you're listening to this around release date, it is almost Thanksgiving, which has me thinking about how grateful we are for you. To each and every one of our listeners, thank you. Thank you for going on this journey of leadership with us at the Global Leadership Network. We are so incredibly grateful. I mean, so grateful to be a part of your leadership development. It really is a gift, so thank you. Now, this month's theme has been failing well. So far, we've heard from GLN President and CEO David Ashcraft and Harvard Business School professor Amy Edmondson. We've learned how failure can be one of our greatest teachers. I don't know about you, but I needed that lesson. We've also been reminded and challenged that our response to failure is incredibly important. And up next, we get to learn from Ryan Leake. And if you don't know his story, whoa, that's all I'm going to say, just whoa. He is such an incredible storyteller, and he has such a fantastic story to tell. He is the master of helping people push past their own limits and risk failure to reach their goals. He's a CEO, coach, speaker, and author, and he is known for proposing to his wife and getting married all in one day on video, which went viral. Ryan is being interviewed by GLN's very own Lori Hermann. Lori is the Senior Vice President of Summit Experiences and Executive Producer of the Global Leadership Summit. Ryan sat down with us at the 2023 Global Leadership Summit, and this is a condensed version of that conversation. If you would like to hear that interview in its entirety, look for episode 137 in our previous episodes. And just before we hop on, you've heard me talking about how much we love reading your reviews, and I wanted to share this 5-star review from one of our listeners. And it says, "This podcast has been a powerful resource of grace and truth in leadership." And that's from Leader in the Making. Thank you so much, Leader in the Making, for leaving that 5-star review. And again, we read these and they help shape the content and direction that we move in. So thank you so much. If you haven't yet left a review, I just want to encourage you and invite you to take a couple of minutes and leave a review for this podcast. Now let's go ahead and hear Lori and Ryan's conversation.
Ryan, it's so great to talk to you today. Thanks for taking some time out to be a part of the Global Leadership Podcast.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure.
I have been a huge fan of yours. I've loved reading a couple of your books and watching some of your videos. I've been very fascinated about one part of your story, so I can't wait to dive into a couple of things. Now, I know this about you, but you did this kind of documentary on chasing failure.
Yeah.
Where did this whole interaction with Sint and the Mavs come into play in the timeline of that? Before, after?
Oh, so Chasing Failure, that was 2015, 2016.
Tell us a little bit about what that is. Like, I know, but tell the audience.
Okay, so
like,
Chasing Failure is
and
a
what did you do?
documentary that I did where I asked the question, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? When I answered that question, I said, well, hey, I'd be in the NBA. And so I reached out to a bunch of NBA teams, which is absolutely ridiculous because that's not how anything works in this world. But apparently I thought, what do we have to lose?
Well, when I first heard you say that,
Yeah.
and I was like, really? Why would someone think they could try out for the NBA? But then I met you, and I saw you. You're tall. You have big hands. You clearly are a good basketball player.
Sure.
So it's
and I
not
played in college.
Completely foreign thought that you could have done.
Yeah,
that,
it's not. Yeah, it's not absolutely ludicrous. Just partially ludicrous.
Yeah.
Just But yeah, I mean, I was an All-American in college. Like I love the game of basketball, but never pursued the pros.
Yeah.
I pursued what I'm doing right now. But I always would go to NBA games and think I could do that.
Yeah.
But it was like, could you really? But I had never actually tried, and so
because they make it look so easy.
They make it look easy. It's not.
And
and they look like they're running at a pace that is normal because your speed is based off of what it looks like, not what it actually is. So, for example, an airplane is going 400 miles an hour. It doesn't look like it. Doesn't even feel like it, but it is. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So when you actually go out there next to these human beings, these literal freaks of nature, you find out just how slow you actually are, even if you think you can run fast. And so I got lucky and got an opportunity to try out for the Phoenix Suns and made a documentary.
I don't know how it was lucky. You were persistent.
But like NBA teams do not give workouts from emails.
So
like,
what
that's
do you,
not
so
it
how do you,
works.
how do you think it happened?
So, well, a couple of things. One, I truly 100% believe in the favor of God. I believe that. Two, it's what my friends continuously call lightning in a bottle. And the funny thing is I continue to have lightning in a bottle type of moments. And so at some point, are you calling it lightning in a bottle? But even when I got to Phoenix, the public relations director that I was emailing with, she just looks at me and she just starts laughing. She's like, she goes, we would never do this in a million years. And I'm like,
Lightning in a bottle.
yeah,
Really?
I mean, but thank you for doing it. She goes, but you know what, Ryan? Your email came at the right time, in the right moment. And we would normally say no to this a million times over, but we just felt like saying yes.
Yeah.
Changed my life.
That's cool. Okay, so that was in what you said?
That was 2016.
2016.
Or 2015. Technically, it happened in 2014. I was so embarrassed from what happened in Phoenix.
Really?
That I didn't want to share my failures with people. My ego used to be way too big, and I didn't want anyone to see me fail. And so I buried it. I just kind of tucked it. And because it was bad. I'm like, I failed. I didn't want anyone to know that I had failed my dream. I just wanted to pretend like it didn't happen. And so we had all this footage that we didn't edit or anything. And it took me a while to get over my ego and realize, wait a minute, failures can help people more than anything I could ever do that is successful. And so that was when I said, okay, it's time. And so I technically did not edit Chasing Failure until 8 to 18 months after I actually tried out for the Phoenix Suns, which meant I missed a lot of opportunities. One, to send it to Kobe Bryant. Two, to actually engage with the Phoenix Suns on saying, hey, let's encourage your fans and all of that. So I failed in that manner because it took me too long to realize people admire perfection from a distance, but they can't relate to it. And so it's important that I think leaders put themselves in a position to say, hey, here's the behind the scenes. I was talking to another speaker the other day, and I spoke in Miami just a couple of days ago. He goes, man, how'd it go? I said, airball. He was like, what? He goes, there's no way you airballed. I went, no, I airballed. I missed. And he's like, but you missed? There's like at this level you miss? I went, all the time. And he's like, dude, that was so helpful. Or I could be like, hey, man, I'm killing it. What's that for? And so, but it took me way too long to learn that being vulnerable actually builds trust with people to go, this is a human. This guy makes mistakes, and nobody's batting 1,000. So the actual tryout happened in 2014. I didn't actually finish the documentary until December 2015, January 2016. And then I started working with the Mavericks in 2017, 2018. Yeah.
So did they know about that?
Yeah. Sent watched Chasing
She
Failure.
did, which is why she loved you.
Yeah,
really.
and she's like, we got to have this guy do something. And which was very kind and generous of her and the Mavericks, for sure.
Well, that is very cool.
Yeah.
So if you set out to, you pretty much knew going into the documentary it was about chasing failure.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So were you surprised in the process of how you reacted or responded to the experience? Was it different? It must have been different than what you expected. If you put it on the shelf for that.
Yeah. Well, one, I never thought an NBA team would actually give me an opportunity. In fact, where the documentary was headed was learning all that we can from rejection from all 30 NBA teams. It was going to be this idea.
It wasn't about rejection.
Yeah, it was going to be, hey, I was told no by all 30 NBA teams, and here's what I learned about each rejection.
Yeah.
And that was going to kind of be lessons learned. And the fifth email, somebody said yes, and I was like, wait a minute, what? You're actually going to let me try out for an NBA team? I remember calling my pastor at the time. I was the young adults pastor at the church.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, I need to take a couple sick days. I won't be at the executive team meeting on Tuesday. It's like, for what? I was like, man, I didn't tell you about it. It's a failure thing. But I've been emailing NBA teams. Long story short, I'm trying out for the Phoenix Suns on Monday. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're not trying out for the Phoenix Suns on Monday. I go, well actually, I am. Like, that's a real thing. And he knew I was good at basketball, but he's just like, what is happening right now? I go, man, I'm doing this documentary. It's called Chasing Failure. Don't worry about it. And he says, well, what happens if you make the team? And I said, well, then I'm going to quit. Duh. What do you think? I'm going to stay here, for $38,000 a year. I was like, I can Zoom these young adults and come back. I can always come back here. I'm like, dude, I'm going to the NBA if I make it, but don't worry, I'll probably fail. So there was it was a complete shock. They told me I was doing a workout with the coach, which is different. So plenty of players all around the world will get a workout with a coach where they have them go through a bunch of drills and they have certain standards that they have to meet. I had no idea that the team would be there. So when I walked in, I was like, oh, wow. And coach was like, yeah, jump in. I was like, you sure you don't want them to finish? And then I'll do my private workout. It's like, no, let's see what you got. So I did not expect to actually play against NBA players. I expected an NBA workout. I did not expect to actually see NBA
So this just
people.
kept getting better and better and better.
It just evolved. And that's what I tell people. It's, you don't know what's going to happen, but you just got to put yourself out there. You just got to go for it. You just got to post it. You got to write it. You got to lead it. You got to try some things. You can get it wrong. And that's a part of the journey. And that's what my willingness does every single day in our business.
Yeah.
Is we keep trying stuff. We keep trying to add value to other people, and sometimes we do not. And sometimes we do.
It's the driving motivator in your life. Add value to people.
That's what we try to do. And I think that's when you make it about others, it takes the pressure off. The minute that it becomes about you, well, then you get cranky when it doesn't go well, and it's hard to move on. But I think when you're just trying to add value to people, I think people can sense that as well. Anytime I do a pre-event call with someone I'm speaking for, which, by the way, we never actually answered the question of what I do for a living. So
that's true. Well, you make documentaries.
I made some documentaries. I don't do it anymore.
The executive coach for
I was yeah. So now, long story short, I became a part of a couple of different teaching teams for a couple of different megachurches. So I was on the teaching team at 5 megachurches as of just a year ago. And so I was doing about 48 weekends a year and just rotating between the 5, jumping in their series. And so I was speaking to about 50 to 60,000 people every single month just in church. Well, as I began to share stories from my life as an executive coach, companies started to bring me in. And so I've pulled back a little bit on the teaching team stuff. So I'm now on just 3 teaching teams for three larger churches in the country, that Eagle Brook Church, Covenant Church, and Chase Oaks. And I love the work that we get to partner together to do to help those communities. And then the other 80% of the time, I get the honor and privilege of speaking all over the world.
So speaking is your thing.
100%.
So that's your superpower.
Yeah, and I've had to pull back on everything else to, I try to have an elite mindset around communication. I just care a lot. It's not that I think I'm good. I just think that I care. I am very meticulous when it comes to communication because I think it matters. And I think this could be somebody's one opportunity to give somebody else their attention, and that could change their life.
Yeah.
And so I think if we bring our best, who knows what could happen in their life.
So what are the main things that you like to teach on? Do you have a particular passion that message that you're trying to get out?
I think for me, I love talking about generosity. I don't know that that's the biggest need in the world. Most people aren't waking up going, I'm so greedy today. I need to give. Most people don't think that. I try to meet people where they're at. I try to help people with what's actually going on in their life. I love talking about marriage. I love talking about marriage in corporate America, ironically, because nobody does.
Yeah.
And obviously in the church space, that's a common subject, but in the corporate space, it's not a very common subject. But I always pose the question like this: how are you supposed to grow as leaders if your marriage isn't well?
Yeah.
When you kind of carry that into a boardroom, how's that feel? And people often go, thanks for saying that. Who else is?
Right.
Who else is going to challenge them or give them something? Hey, I know you could lead this room better, but here's a tip for home.
Yeah.
And they go, I need that for my kid. I need that for my wife. I need that for my husband. And I think, I added value to somebody's life today.
World Vision, along with the Global Leadership Network, have a shared heart for the church in advancing the kingdom, especially in the most fragile places of our world. World Vision would love to offer you a free downloadable resource on key leaders in the biblical narrative who were part of the liberating move of God. In this self-paced study, you'll learn how God uses ordinary people to set great liberating movements in motion. Download the Liberating Move of God now at worldvision.org/GLN 2024. The link is also in today's show notes. Again, that link is worldvision.org/GLN 2024. Thanks again for World Vision for sponsoring today's episode. And now let's get right back to our interview with Ryan Leake.
So you have a passion for marriage. Well, I think, again, this is another thing that I was fascinated about. You must have an amazing wife, because I just can't imagine
She's remarkable.
you planning a wedding for her, proposing to her, and marrying her all on the same day, and surprising her. That's a pretty remarkable woman.
Yeah, she's awesome. We were talking about it last night. I go, can you believe we've been married for over 10 years?
Has it been that long?
Yeah, we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary in
So
June.
that must have been right after the whole chasing failure piece.
So
that was
timeline.
Yeah, I'm a timeline person.
Engaged and married on the same day.
Yeah.
We film a documentary. It's like, what in the world just happened? What did we just do?
Yeah.
We're married now. It's like, okay, this is great. And a friend of mine filmed it. This was Twitter had just come out. Or X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, whatever. It had just come out. So the idea of virality really was just becoming a thing. Ads, spin to make things go viral wasn't even around. So if you went viral, it was because it was actually spread. There was no, so our friend just filmed it, and it took him 3 months to edit. So we had been engaged and married for months. Yeah, before it was like, so I share it on Facebook with just my Facebook friends. It was just like, hey guys, I know you all were wondering, to my friends, hey, how'd that day go? Hey, here's the video. They're like, oh my gosh, this video is great. And it had 10,000 views in the first day, which again, 10,000 views then was like, wow. Like, I don't know 10,000 people. And then it got to 36,000. I was like, I don't know 36,000 people. This is like mind blowing. And then the Daily Mail put it in their newsletter. I didn't know what the Daily Mail was. I know what the Daily Mail is now. And then it went viral from there. And that got us on the Queen Latifah show. Well, there were plenty of others, but at that time it was like a TED Talk was what was the most viral thing on the internet. But yeah, after we went on a couple of different TV shows, one of them was the Queen Latifah show. And on the Queen Latifah show, my wife surprised me by getting me connected with Kobe Bryant. Then I thought, man, if I'm going to meet Kobe, I got to have this NBA thing on lock. So that's what led to the documentary.
But had you already shot it? No. Okay, got it.
No, not at all. So I met Kobe and told him, hey, I'm going to be in the NBA. And he says, hey, send me this Chasing Failure documentary. Yeah. And I didn't know how I was going to do that. So I met Kobe in 2014, February 2014. I tried out for the Suns September of 2014. And then documentary December 2015, January 2016.
Yeah. So you have a passion for teaching. Obviously, it's your superpower.
Yeah.
You have a message that you want to, messages that you want to continue to add value to people.
100%.
You have a heart for marriage.
Yeah.
What is the legacy that you want to leave?
You know,
You're young. You have a long time.
I mean, I hope so. You know, that's the thing is you don't know how much time you have. So you got to give your best every day.
Yeah.
And I think what I am seeing with my children blesses me. Mm-hmm. It's interesting being a Christian businessman because you think about leaving a legacy and your name mattering. And then you think, man, I was just trying to make Jesus' name awesome. Mm-hmm. And if people forget me, I'm actually okay with that. Yeah. If they remember Jesus. But I love what I see in my kids. Mm-hmm. My kids are awesome. And we have values that we hold in our house that are really centered around generosity. Mm-hmm. And we keep snacks, gift cards in our middle council to be able to give away to people on the streets if we see homeless people. And now my kids do it from the back seat, and they'll pass out and pass out gift cards, whatever. And
how old are your kids?
8 and 4.
Boy, girl?
2 boys. Fun. And it's so interesting because there are times where there might be a homeless person 3 lanes over, and my kids are like, pull a Yui. Why are we in such a hurry? Where are we going? We're actually running late. Yeah, but he's hungry. And we have resources to help him. So, Dad, are we going to help them or not? Another thing that I do lifestyle-wise around sharing my faith is, and I learned this from a mentor about 7-8 years ago. He says, hey, every person that serves you, ask them, is there anything going on in your life that I can pray for? And the first time I heard this, I was like, I'm not doing that. You're going to get punched in the face, Like, I don't know what we think is going to happen. But then I just started doing it, and you'd be surprised the stories a stranger will tell you. And anytime I'm invited to a church to talk about sharing your faith, I literally, for an hour, could tell you stories of people. I keep a prayer journal on my phone of the different waiters and waitresses and gate agents and car rental clerks, you name it, of people that I've prayed for all over the world. And I pray for them. And we were on vacation this past summer, and I was at a food truck with my son, and my son goes, hey, mister. The guy was like, yeah. I was like, what's about to happen? He goes, what's your name? And he says, my name's JJ. My son goes, hey, JJ, my name's Jackson. Do you have anything going on in your life that I can pray for? And I just thought, we've never talked about it, but he's watched me do it enough. He's watched his mom do it enough. And I just think, man, we can keep that going. All the other stuff, take care of itself. Books, podcasts, whatever, that's all that. But to me, it's what we deposit into our family, and they can carry on. Hey, if you want to go be an accountant, go be an accountant that loves Jesus and shares your faith. If you want to be a pastor, hey, go for it. But he comes with me now on different business trips, and he sits with global leaders, and he's learning at a very young age. Okay, so he's like, Dad, I would love to do what you do. He said, I would love to share your story. And I said, no, I'd prefer if God gave you your own, and then you can do whatever God's called you to do. So for me, I hope that the work that I get to do in church and in business, life is but a vapor. We have a tiny window of life to be able to make an impact on as many people as we possibly can. I pray that the impact that I have on people from using one of these, a microphone, that there would be a ripple effect that we see on the other side of eternity. But if my name isn't attached to it, I'm actually okay with that.
Ryan, you're inspiring me in so
No,
many
it's awesome.
ways. So, real quick,
Yeah.
we're done. As we get to the end,
Yeah.
I'd love to just fire off a couple different questions
Sure.
to you real quickly to
Yeah.
see from your executive coaching, what are
Mhm.
you seeing is the biggest challenge with leaders these days?
Change. It's not close. Change. The funny thing is every industry is going through change, except every industry thinks they're the only industry going through change. It feels so personal,
Yeah,
and they're taking it personal.
yeah,
Like it's an indictment on them personally. It's like the
Mm.
world is changing.
yeah,
It's all of us. It is not a lonely boat. It's a cruise ship, and we're
Mhm.
all headed in this direction of change.
yeah,
And so, leaders leading through change is hard. I might argue following through change is harder.
really,
Well, because when you're leading the change, you actually get to make the decisions about the change.
right.
But when you're following through change, you have to deal with the domino effects of that change. So let's just take, for example, an insurance company that those leaders have to make a decision that changes how their customers and clients interact with their policies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they don't actually interact with any of their customers and clients. They just made the decision.
Yeah,
Now, the decision was hard, and they realized that there was a ripple effect. But the people that actually have to deal with that ripple effect, they're the ones that actually have to call those customers that are digitally illiterate, if you will.
yeah, yeah,
And they don't understand technology. So now they're having a frustrating conversation with someone that's in their 60s. They're just like, I don't want to do this on my phone. Well, actually, it's the only way that we can verify that it's you. And then they have to do that
yeah,
for 6 months as they convert based off of a decision that was made in a boardroom.
yeah,
So, yes, everyone has to deal with change, but I actually think having that empathy for change is what leaders have to lead with to say, hey, I realize the ripple effect of this is beyond what I can see.
yeah.
And so that's hard. And then you have,
Well, and that would mean
Yeah.
you as a leader recognizing that. So that's a great heads up right there. Hey,
Oh, yeah.
stop, look behind you, look what you're doing. So then listen, probably as you're rolling that stuff out. What other advice do you give to that person who's leading, affecting that change?
Well, part of it depends on the size of the organization. Um, I know there are a couple of organizations that have over 100,000 employees, yet their Calendly is available to every single employee. If someone wants to meet with the CEO, just schedule it. You can get 10 minutes with the CEO if you have a concern. So making yourself available. Here's the interesting thing in that situation. Making yourself available, most people actually don't take advantage of it because they're too afraid. They're too intimidated by it. However, the fact that he or she is available makes them feel better about the change to go. I know I could go if I need to. But when I have no one to go to, that feeling makes them feel like they're in the ocean drowning and no one's coming. But knowing that it is available, it makes them feel like, oh, the Coast Guard's here. And there's a lifeguard on deck. I can call if I need to, so I feel safe. So I think availability is important through that, depending on the size. I would give, it's not a one size fits all in that. Depending on the size of the organization, I think that you can have strategic meetings where you are consistently getting feedback. When decisions are made in a vacuum without the perspective of all parties represented, I think you can make some dangerous decisions. And so Nationwide's a great company that I work with. They have a chief advisory board that represents the entire organization from IT, HR, and all of their different business units. Well, they meet with the CEO once a month, and he listens the whole time. It's a chief advisory board, which, in other words, I brought you in here to help me have a pulse on our very large organization. Well, the fact that people know about the advisory board, they know, well, even if I can't meet with Kurt, who's awesome, I go, but I can meet with one of the people on his advisory board, and he knows what's going on in his organization. He's not aloof. And so one of the things I love doing with teams is I say, hey, I want you to write down on a piece of paper one word that actually describes your culture, not what's on your website. I want you to write down a word that describes the current culture right now, and you can't look at your neighbor's answer. And I love collecting it. Nationwide was the only place I've been where 12 people all wrote down the same word.
Wow,
Ever.
that's impressive.
Ever. It's the only place where everyone wrote down the same word. And the word that they all wrote down was care. Care.
Wow.
We care at a high level for our staff, for our employees, for our customers. Care, 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 care. And then all 12 people went around the room and gave a personal story of how the CEO showed care in their personal life at some point in their life.
Wow, that's impressive.
So it's easy to change when you care at a high level. Because there's trust.
Totally.
I know you, and I trust that you're going to make the best decision for all of us. Even if I disagree with it, even if I would make a different decision, if I trust you, well, I will give you a lot more grace and slack. Yeah. But if I don't trust you, I'm going to talk about you behind your back. I'm going to create dissension within the group, and it's going to be some problem.
Yeah.
So
there's so many things foundationally that go into even getting there. You can't even just like make a rule or a policy.
No.
It's action after action that's continuing.
And it takes a while
to
build that reputation.
Yeah.
But once you do, it's amazing what you can do. So sometimes there are organizations that need big changes. Mm-hmm. And our coaching to that leader is, I think you need to change first.
Yeah.
Before you roll out this big change, you don't have enough relational equity to make that change. So spend a year building more relational equity so that when you make that change, you don't lose 100 employees.
Yeah.
Or you can make it now, and then you don't have anybody to even implement that change.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like it's a combination of daily decisions.
Oh yeah.
Over a long period of time that play the long game of building that safety, care.
100%. And I think it's how you treat people.
Yeah.
You know, we all got work to do, but there's just something about somebody that can look you in the eyes and ask you how you doing.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science, but it's rare.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's possible. I think another thing that a lot of that we see in our executive is people are just trying to get over this failure thing. Mm. Lots of failures and lots of setbacks and lots of I got it wrong.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to bounce back. And I've been there a lot. So and just even in the whole author world for me, it's just there's so many things that I had to get over in just my own experience. I had a book come out in December, Leveling Up, 12 Questions to Elevate Your Personal and Professional Development. And my book journey really took a toll on my health and just the whole journey with navigating the book process, if you will. Writing a book is fun. Quote unquote, marketing a book, selling a book is not my forte.
Yeah.
And so that brought about a high level of stress where in December I said, I'll never write a book again. Mm. And it took some really good friends and a really good wife to go, God's not done with you yet. Yeah. And so this is that process of getting back on that horse again, of going, all right, what would I do different? How would I do it differently? It's not, do you have something to say, but it's like, do you have systems and processes around you that allow your content to be curated in a way that doesn't add more stress to your family and you? And
Yeah.
so navigating some book hurt of my own,
Yeah.
and getting back on that horse and helping leaders do the same to say, hey, let's do this thing again. Let's keep it moving.
Yeah. So what have you learned about that journey? Chasing failure, leveling up. What's your parting piece of advice?
Every day. Every day, I think it is a commitment to keep it moving.
Yeah.
There is I can't tell you how many people, strangers I talk to, that are in a world of hurt.
Mm.
And it gets me out of bed in the morning. I can't tell you how many people that I see, even in corporate America, which is where I spend 80% of my time,
Mm-hmm.
that desperately need faith.
Yeah.
Desperately. And more, I'll have clients say, hey, just no religious references. Okay, sure. Q&A comes up. Hey, we'll get you out of bed in the morning. Hey, man, you asked me a question. I don't know what to tell you. But anytime I start talking about my faith, there are tears in the room every single time.
Wow.
Because I heard this line in Bishop Jakes' latest book, Disruptive Thinking, which is a phenomenal read, by the way. He says, there is no amount of money in the world that can hold your hand when you have to put one of your babies in the ground.
Mm.
And I just thought, who cares about all this success stuff? In that moment, you want to know what you need? Faith.
Mm-hmm.
When your house has been split in half, when your family's been split, losing a loved one, all of these things, it doesn't matter what room I'm in.
Yeah.
It's humans there that experience loss in some way, shape, or form. And I think I was born for that moment. I was put on the planet. I am not God's gift to the planet.
Mm-hmm.
I am here to tell people about God's gift to the planet.
Yeah.
His name is Jesus. I love what I get to do.
Well, Ryan, I can tell you're holding people's hand when they
Yeah.
need it, and
Yeah.
you're helping them by modeling
Yep.
your faith and
Mhm.
your relationship with Jesus and pointing
Yeah,
others to him.
absolutely.
And thank you for sharing that with us
Yeah.
too, and giving us a little insight into
Absolutely.
who you are and inspiring us
Yes.
to go be better leaders, better friends,
Yeah,
and help people. and
absolutely.
keep adding value to people. Thank you for
Yes,
doing it.
absolutely.
It was great to have you here.
Thank you for
Thanks.
having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yes.
Ryan feels like the guy I want in my corner cheering me on, like that feeling of that person that's just always right there encouraging you to take the next step. And here's what I've been thinking about after listening to the conversation with Ryan and Lori. Ryan was willing to risk failure to see his dreams come true. I mean, he ended up trying out for an NBA team, no less. And it made me remember this conversation that I had. I can remember the couch I was sitting on. It was a crisp spring day, and I was sitting on the couch with my sister and my sister-in-law, in which they were asking me if I was going to pursue a goal that I had been dreaming about. And I looked at them and I just said, I don't know, I'm feeling pretty down about it. I didn't really see a way forward. And they looked at me, and both of them in different ways. They asked, are you not going to pursue that dream because you're afraid to fail? And that statement, sitting on that couch, really did something to me. They totally cut to the core of my fear, which was failure. And so since that conversation and the encouragement of this conversation with Ryan, I've been getting up early and working slowly but surely on a dream that I've carried in my heart for a long time. And Ryan's message of not being afraid of failure is helping me stay consistent to do the work to achieve that dream, even if, and here's the key, even if I experience some failure along the way. So I hope that this nudges you in just a small way forward to being okay to risk the failure to go and achieve that dream. And hey, if you're interested in learning any more about failing well, just make sure to go and check out our product. We made it for you all month long. We're talking about failing well. You can check out globalleadership.org/365. And before we wrap up this episode, again, I just have to remind you, in the spirit of great Thanksgiving, we are so thankful for each and every one of you. Thanks for walking this leadership journey with all of us. And thanks for being a part of the Global Leadership Podcast community.